September the 11th, 2022. Guys, it's a day to remember, but I've seen the news articles this morning, even from conservative sites, and they're saying they're still blaming it on the wrong people. So I'm not even going to go there. This channel, the people that watch this channel know the truth about that. They know the truth about what's been going on for the last 2 years. So I'm not going to go there, and I'm not going to blame it on somebody else when we have those demons still in this country that did it. But this article is important because what happens in Europe is sometimes months away from happening here. It happens there a lot of times faster because of the leadership, and they don't have certain amendment rights that we do here. It says this winter, Europe plunges into the new dark ages. And this is from Michael Snyder via the Economic Collapse blog. It says, could you imagine being sent to prison for 3 years if you dare to set your thermostat above 66 degrees Fahrenheit? And that's what they're proposing, and they're planning on doing this. It's not only that, it's also fines involved. Now, what they're saying is 19 degrees centigrade, which is 66.2 Fahrenheit, technically. It says, and you will see below, this is a proposed regulation that is actually being considered in a major European country right now. It's where the farmers are protesting with the tractors. They want that land. They want them to stop farming so they can take their land. That particular means of operation is going to be happening here very quickly also. Bankrupt you and take your money, take your property. You will have nothing, and you're not going to like it. There's always a lie in there. It says, if you haven't been paying attention to what's happening in Europe, you need to wake up. And again, it's because it's coming here. Natural gas in Europe is 7 times more expensive than it was earlier last year. And that is because of the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is the 51st state of the U.S. It's the playground of several administrations. And we know what's going on there also. It says, over the past few decades, the Europeans foolishly allowed themselves to become extremely dependent on gas from Russia. And you guys can thank whoever led Greta around by the hand for the last several years for a lot of this stupidity. It says, in fact, more than 55% of the natural gas that Germany uses normally comes from Russia. But because our 51st state there has been the playground for many world leaders, and it's now the proxy war setting, then what does the U.S. do and Europe do after Russia gets tired of the shenanigans that are going on there? They start banning the things they need the most. That's leadership. It says, but now the war's changed everything, and Europe is facing an extremely harsh winter of severe shortages, mandatory rationing, and absolutely insane heating bills. 7 times the price of natural gas from last year. Now, when I read this, I can't help but think of the new RS army being put together here in the U.S. and what they're going to do to take everything you have. This reminds me of that a lot. It says things are going to get very cold and very dark all over Europe in the months ahead. And those Europeans that choose to rebel against the new restrictions that are being implemented could literally find themselves in prison. Switzerland is considering jailing anyone who heats their rooms above 19°C for up to 3 years if the country is forced to ration gas due to the Ukraine war. They're already starting it, guys. Plants are already shutting down. Major manufacturing, steel, aluminum, things like that uses natural gas in their smelters, they're already starting to shut down. So what is that going to do? It's going to accelerate the decline in the economy. Think about it. Your manufacturing goes almost to zero. You know what that does to your stock markets and to your country, to your GDP? Then again, 19°C is 66.2 degrees. The also give fines to those who violate the proposed new regulations. Now, 3 years, guys, in prison with fines. It says, speaking to Blick, Marcus Spordili, who is spokesman for the Federal Department of Finance, explained that the rate for fines on a daily basis could start at 30 Swiss francs, which is about 26 pounds. Again, 66 degrees. So what are they going to do? They would love to, and I don't know how the smart meter situation is there, and if the thermostats are all controlled like they are in Colorado by the power company, guys, which was a very stupid thing to let them do to you. Then what they're going to do is force you somehow, and they may not even tell the truth about it, say that you brought your thermostat above that. And by the time you're out of jail, you'll have nothing. They will own everything you have. Do you understand where this is going? I hope you do. It says, if you live in Europe, prepare to dress very warmly this winter, guys, and that may be the best advice you can have right now, if you think about it. Because, listen, some may be anticipating that they will just use portable radiant heaters, which are electric, to keep things toasty, but apparently using such heaters would not be allowed. You're not going to stay warm, you're going to keep your house cool, and you're going to get sick and die. And you're going to like it. Said they wouldn't, the radiant heaters would not be allowed, saunas and swimming pools would have to stay cool under these new regulations that Switzerland is considering. Guys, and they are, the government of Switzerland is completely corrupt. It's the people of Switzerland that has slowed that disastrous takeover down somewhat. You saw a protest in that area. You saw the farmers protesting the takeover of the land. It's gotten to be pretty crazy. And what else is in Switzerland on the Franco-Swiss border that is a major power consumer? You got it? CERN. And they are now being looked at, and they may have to curtail part of their powering up during certain times to not, in order for some people to have some electricity. It's going to be that dire. For years, they've shut down their coal plants, and some of them are starting to fire them back up now. When they realize how stupid they've been, they woke up suddenly and said, whoa, it's going to get really cold without Russia. Maybe we need to quit prodding the bear. Now remember, they want to depopulate the planet, whether it's freeze you to death or by any other means that they've come up with for the last couple of years, if you know what I mean. It says, we have never seen anything like this before, and the longer the war in Ukraine stretches on, the worse the energy crisis in Europe will become. Remember, never forget the people that are in charge of the WEF, World Economic Forum, unelected. An end to the era of cheap energy also means that a severe economic slowdown is in the cards, and this is already starting to show up in the numbers. Europe is showing signs of heading into a recession as multiple economic surveys show the region's services and manufacturing sectors slowing down, while a large number of the continent's citizens are struggling to cope with rising prices, 7 times the price natural gas from last year. Now, the S&P Global Eurozone Composite Output Index fell to an 18-month low in August at 48.9, according to a September 5th news release. Again, this is your steel, manufacturing industries. They don't have the power, and it's so expensive that they still lose money trying to make steel. The Eurozone private sector moved further into contraction. In August, both services and manufacturing output fell for the month. Of course, what we have witnessed so far is just the beginning. Things are likely to get really bad this winter. In fact, German Economic Minister Robert Habeck has publicly admitted that some parts of the German economy will simply stop producing for the time being. Guys, when you're dealing with major industries and major layoffs, look at the starvation, famine, and cold and cold weather and things like that that are going to cause this havoc. But on the backside of that, these companies may never come back. Things are not going back to normal. And the truth as it is that it has already started to happen. In yet another truly astonishing announcement that demonstrates the desperation of this hour, German steel maker ArcelorMittal, one of the largest steel production facilities in Europe, has shuttered operations due to high energy prices. And guys, I'll link to this article and you can read it because there are some clickable links. One's in German, one's a PDF, things like that. It says, with gas and electricity prices increasing tenfold within just a few months, we are no longer competitive in a market that is 25% supplied by imports. Again, this was CEO Rainer Blaschek. This comes after announced closures of aluminum smelters, copper smelters, and ammonia production plants. What does that do? Fertilizer. These are over the last few weeks. Ammonia necessary for fertilizer is now 70% offline in the EU. Excuse me. My two husky pups are over here wrestling and playing. Many more factories will be forced to shut down in the coming months. Deeply alarmed by what is taking place, 40 CEOs from Europe's metal industry have jointly issued an open letter in which they warn that the companies are facing an existential threat to our future. They are waking up. The business people that have, honestly, it's their fault because who puts the politicians in place with money? Now they're waking up to being stupid. I wish this country would do it. Ahead of Friday's emergency summit, the business leaders of Europe's non-ferrous metals industry are riding together to raise the alarm about Europe's worsening energy crisis and its existential threat to our future. Our sector has already been forced to make unprecedented curtailments in the last 12 months. We are deeply concerned that the winter ahead could deliver a decisive blow to many of our operations. And we call on EU and member state leaders to take emergency action to preserve the strategic electricity-intensive industries and prevent permanent job losses. That's what they want. So you 40 European CEOs, you better get it in gear, and you better realize what you've done to your country by allowing this to happen. I know it. You guys are all right. Excuse me, guys. They want a little attention here, Booger and Bandit. It says 50% of the EU's aluminum and zinc capacity has already been forced offline due to the power crisis. 50%. As well as significant curtailments in silicon and ferroalloys production and further impacts felt across copper and nickel sectors. Guys, this is electronics. There's a lot of things going on here. Construction. In the last month, several companies have had to announce indefinite closures, and many more are on the brink ahead of life or death winter for many operations. Producers face electricity and gas costs over 10 times higher than last year, far exceeding the sales price of their products. Now, in the beginning of this, in the Switzerland area, they were talking about 7 times. Here, across the Euro, especially, I guess, in manufacturing, 10 times the cost from last year to produce something. Now, you can only raise prices so far before no one can afford it, and they're starting to realize this. It says, again, producers face electricity and gas costs over 10 times higher than last year, far exceeding the sale prices of their products. We know from experience that once a plant is closed, it is very often becomes a permanent situation, as reopening implies significant uncertainty and cost. What will next winter bring? Guys, and just like the farm shutting down. We can't do it anymore. Every year, fertilizer's higher, diesel's higher. They're shutting it down. This is what we're seeing. So we got to back up a little bit. It says this is what an economic collapse looks like. What started it? We were already seeing high prices before the situation in Ukraine, right? But that definitely accelerated the costs going up very quickly and the shortages. It says things are already so bad, I mentioned this earlier, that scientists are even considering shutting down the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, that's CERN, the big 17-foot-mile loop underground. Europe's energy crisis is being felt by everyone, including the scientists working deep underground in Switzerland at the LHC. The European Organization of Nuclear Research, better known as CERN, is even considering taking its particle accelerators offline. Now, to me, that would be a blessing. So at least one good thing could potentially come out of the crisis, but overall the months ahead are going to be an immensely uncomfortable time for Europe and much of the world. As conditions become tougher and tougher, ordinary Europeans are going to become angrier and angrier. Now, the NATO is seeing this, and it's part of the plan. It says the NATO secretary is openly admitting that there will be civil unrest, but he insists that Europeans must make sacrifices in order to support the war in Ukraine. So it's now you could read this backwards. The citizens are going to make sacrifices because they started the war in Ukraine to cause this. Vladimir Putin's energy blackmail over Europe could lead to civil unrest this winter. Again, NATO Secretary General has warned. They said the winter will be hard as families and businesses feel the crunch of soaring energy prices and cost of living in the coming months. Writing in the Financial Times, the boss of the Western Security Alliance said that it is worth paying the price to support Ukraine as he sits in his heated building. Eventually, there will be tremendous civil unrest in major cities in the U.S. as well. We're still only in the very early stages of this new global energy crisis, and it's going to turn all of our lives upside down worldwide. Meanwhile, we also are plunging into a horrific global food crisis. He says, as I detailed, again, this is Michael from the Economic Blog. He says, as I detailed a few days ago, even the head of the UN is admitting there will be multiple famines in 2023. That's because so much of the food this year was grown last year. And so next year, there's not going to be much. Look at what has happened to the farmers worldwide. Life as we know it is about to change. Right now, all eyes are on Europe because things are starting to get really crazy over there. It's exactly right. That's the point of this video. It's a heads up for Europe and for the U.S. because things are moving in this direction. Europe is going to descend into the new dark ages this winter, and the entire world will experience extreme pain as a result. So guys, you're going to be put in between a rock and a hard spot. All of us are. The U.S. is right behind you. But they're going to do anything they can to make you break some type of thermostat law, let's say. Come get you 3 years when you get out if you live through 3 years in prison without heat, which they probably won't plan on you doing that. There's nothing going to be there to come back because they're going to take it probably in a couple of days after they take you to jail. That's the plan. That's the plan with the tax situation here in the U.S. They're going to tax you to death. Going to raise your land taxes, property taxes, business taxes, gas taxes, food taxes, until you cannot afford anything. But you're supposed to be happy about it. But when you can't pay your land taxes, what happens? Jackboots come in, load you out, and move whoever in. Whoever will vote and go along with their program. Keep your mouth shut, work hard, you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy. That's what they think is going to happen. That's their plans. And in some places, that's exactly how it's going to happen. And if you look back at the history of the last 2 years, what is happening in the last 2 years? A couple things. Look at the sheeple involved in getting in line to do these things. Look at how many it is. So that is going to be a problem in itself. There's going to be accelerated casualties from that event. And because of that stupidity, again, the lining up, not questioning anything, causes a lot of trouble. And it will cause it here. It will cause it worldwide. You see it already. But guys, again, hope you have a nice Sunday. The weather here is nice and sunny. It's almost fall-like. I love it. Been getting a few sprinkles earlier, but the sun's out and just can't complain about it. One thing I will say is I probably got enough firewood for 2 years because I've had a little extra each year and it piles up and you keep it dry. And the guy's a good wood burning heater. You're going to be in about $300 probably now for just the basic 2-eye burner. And get you some wood. And in places where, in most cities, you can't burn firewood because of the pollution. Everyone burning fire, it settles over everything, and if you don't have a breeze or anything, it becomes kind of hard to breathe. Well, I think that if the power grid goes down and people are surviving from that, the knock on the door, and I've said it before, would be from the police saying, please, could we come in and warm up and maybe have something warm on that wood stove to eat? Maybe the situation. But we'll have to wait and see. Guys, we're watching this. You watch it. It's major news, and you need to pay attention to it and prepare yourself with what's going on in Europe, guys. Again, the warm clothes is an excellent idea, but you got to watch what's happening with your power, with your thermostat. Is the thermostat controlled again like it was in Colorado? Then they can just set it to wherever they want to and nail you and come get you. You understand the evil in the world, guys. Again, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.